Hello, and welcome to the Mobile User Acquisition Show, a podcast to help you unlock tremendous growth for your app. My name is Shamant Rao. I'm the CEO of the boutique growth marketing firm Rocketship HQ and host of the podcast Mobile User Acquisition Show. In each episode, we feature experts in the field of mobile growth and discuss strategies, tips, and pointers from the leading edge of mobile growth marketing. By the end of each episode, you will have gained actionable and tactical insights that will help you make more informed decisions in your own work around growth. The Mobile User Acquisition Show is produced by Meryl Vincent, Content Marketing Manager at Rocketship HQ. Today, I want to talk about a common pitfall to watch out for while working with ad networks that use probabilistic modeling for attribution and reporting. So, as it turns out, a lot of networks use probabilistic models for optimization and reporting, but they use SKAN data for billing. So what does this imply? What is the impact of this? So if all you're looking at is your spend, your CPA or ROAS according to probabilistic models, and you're using this to measure your performance and inform your future budgets, you might find that at the end of the month, your bill from ad networks is 30 to 40% higher than the spend you accounted for in your daily and weekly reports. That is such a huge delta, and I have seen that in a couple of instances already. And if you have a finance team that sits siloed from your UA team or media buying team, this could be a huge gap that could cost you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you look at the show transcript, you see the actual math on two different networks for a product, right? And you'll see that the spend difference between what is reported as probabilistic and what is reported as billable according to SKAN is huge. That's 30% for one network, 40% for another, right? And that is such a huge delta. You should also note that the networks report only probabilistic CPA in the network dashboard. And if you have to look at SKAN CPA, you will have to go into the MMP dashboard, right? And I think this is the key reason why there is a lot of confusion, because if all you see is the probabilistic CPA in the network dashboard and it looks very optimistic, you rely on that, you lean on that, and you use that to inform your decision making, not realizing that at the end of the month, your bill is going to be 30% higher than the numbers you're considering, right? And that can be crazy, right? And to be fair and to be clear, the platforms do communicate and they do have some documentation around how they bill and how they report. But this is easy to miss, especially if you're relatively inexperienced or if you're on a self-serve version of these platforms. It's not easy to take note of this, right? And as I said, you're not seeing the SKAN CPA in the platform dashboard. So you just miss that altogether. And I did talk to a person from one of the networks and about why this is the practice, and this is what they had to say. I have edited the explanation slightly to remove identifying details, FYI, but the essence of the explanation is still valid, right? So they said, look, if you look at the MMP dash, you're comparing the data using SKAN installs, and your CPA will seem higher than it actually is. This is because if SKAN sees 100 installs, but probabilistic sees only 80, 20 of those installs will seem like they generated zero revenue, right? So they're basically saying, look, probabilistic is not catching all of the installs that happen. And they can go on to explain, Apple, as the owner for both iOS hardware and software, made SKAN the most accurate source of install attribution. And this is why we use it for billing and attribution purposes. However, there are significant limitations with SKAN, the two most significant being it does not pass install postbacks in real time, rather on a minimum 24 to 48 hour delay. We don't receive post-install data per install, So our platform would be unable to build a model. Therefore, we couldn't run any user-level optimized campaign. For this reason, we use probabilistic attribution for day-to-day budget management and modeling purposes. SKAN installs are used for attribution and billing, and probabilistic data from the MMP to measure daily budgets and for optimization purposes, right? So I see the reasoning, right? And I understand the reasoning. Like I said, the challenge is this isn't communicated very clearly, and there are nuances that are easy to miss. And so this is the problem. If you're not looking out, you might be misreporting your ROAS or CPA or your spend by as much as 30 to 40%. So what do you do about this, right, in your reporting and your day-to-day management? So there are two different approaches. And again, if you look at the transcript, I've put this in a tabular form. You could take an aggressive approach. You take billable spend as the source of truth. You add a multiplier, which is an additional 31%, 30%, or whatever number makes sense for you, to your conversions. You base this on the assumption that probabilistic is actually missing out on 30 to 40% of conversions. Therefore, you need to add additional conversions to get your true CPA or true ROAS, right? So based on this, your true conversions will be more than what is reported by probabilistic, and your billable spend is, well, that's your true spend. You could also take a conservative approach and use SKAN conversions as the source of truth. Do not look at probabilistic conversions. You look billable spend as actuals. This is based on the assumption that only billable spend and SKAN are objective and reliable. This is also helpful if you're comparing performance across two different channels, because you're comparing them based on SKAN, because probabilistic across different channels may not be similar or directly comparable. And of course, you cannot compare a probabilistic channel and a SKAN channel, right? So using a conservative approach allows you to compare a probabilistic channel versus a SKAN channel. So you could compare an ad network versus Meta versus TikTok. And of course, you do that after you account for null conversion values. So what do I recommend? Do I recommend the aggressive approach or the conservative approach? It really depends on your goals, right? If you want the true value, you might want to take the aggressive approach. If you want to compare across channels, you might want to take the conservative approach. I tend to recommend the conservative approach because even if it's not capturing all conversions, it's still somewhat credible and objective because it's relying on SKAN, it's relying on what you're actually getting billed, and it allows easier comparison across channels. And of course, in any case, I do recommend always looking out for and verifying your billable spend and treating that as the source of truth, and being very, very careful when you're looking at probabilistically reported metrics.
For more tips, pointers, and strategies from the leading edge of mobile user acquisition, subscribe to our YouTube channel right here, or check out our blog, rocketship.hq.com/blog.